to the BCAM podcast, where we believe better coaching always matters. My name is Michael Masucci, author of Elite Journey Books and BCAM board member. My co-host is Coach Dan Young, the executive director of BCAM, the Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan. On this podcast, we bring in leaders to share insights for the betterment of our game. Our vision is that every coach across the state of Michigan has a great coach. We're so excited to have one of Michigan's own, Shane Battier, joining us today. Shane, welcome to the BCAM podcast.
Thanks for having me. This is an honor.
Oh, I'll tell you, Shane, I've recently seen some of the great content that you're producing, the TED Talk that you gave, such rich stuff that's going to help our coaches. But before we dive right into that, if you can take us back to Birmingham, Michigan in your formative years and how that was and how you kind of grew up, your love for athletics, the mentors that you had in your life, and how that shaped you.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm very proud to be from Michigan, and I grew up in Birmingham, and the assembly line Detroit mentality, it was a huge part of my athletic success in my life. And my dad ran a small trucking company in Birmingham, Michigan, and I grew up with two brothers, two sisters, and sports is what we did. You know, the year was defined by the sports we played in the calendar. So in the fall, we all played football and watched football and lived football. In the winter, we all played and lived basketball. In the spring, we loved and lived baseball. And in the summer, you did it all. And so, I grew up just in a very competitive household. I loved to compete. I grew up in a neighborhood where, I played against older kids, and we had a 2-on-2 game with Sean Golden, Bobby Kingo, and Micah Brown. We played 100 every single day. And when the streetlights came on, we went home. So it was an unbelievable childhood. But I learned how to compete at a young age. I learned the importance of teamwork from my dad, who was my first little league coach, and we had some very successful teams. But just learned to love athletics, and I can't remember a time when it wasn't a part of my life, and I was lucky to have just Hall of Fame coaches up and down the line at every level to learn from and to bring the best out of me. And I realize how lucky that I am. And now in my own journey as a 6-year-old father of two, I'm trying to pay that forward and teach the lessons that I was so lucky to learn as a young person growing up.
Yeah, one looks at your resume and they see the unbelievable coaches that you had. I mean, all the way,
Yeah.
from, your AU coaches, your high school coaches, and Coach Keener, and even in baseball with Coach Orlando. Those are two BCAM Hall of Famers. And obviously everyone knows about Coach K, but one of BCAM's favorite clinicians was Hubie Brown. And then, and then you're immersed later in your career with the Heat culture. Can you talk a little bit about what might be and I know it's so different, but maybe a common thread between those winning organizations that you're now kind of talking about and sharing your insights with?
The common thread between all the other teams and coaches I played for, and look, I won at every level, from
Every
little
level.
league to AAU to high school to college to the NBA.
Motor City Mavericks, right?
Motor City, yeah. Shout out
Bert
Bert
Kozlowski. Shout
Kozlowski,
out.
Norm Oden.
Yep.
The coaches I played for, there was always an expectation of a standard. I don't think I had one coach that ever talked about, hey, we got to win this game, or we got to win X amount of games, or we got to win this tournament. Every great coach I played for, that started in the league with my dad, it was about what is our standard? And if we play to our standard, and we do that with the discipline, with an energy, with the communication, with the togetherness, the results just happen organically. And if you have that expectation out of everybody, and everybody is pulling the boat they're rowing the boat in the same direction, following those principles, great things happen. And so I thought every kid grew up like that, and so I was embarrassingly, rich with those lessons growing up with every coach that I ever played for, and so. Um, I can't name a bad coach I had in my career. There are situations that weren't great, but the common thread between all the coaches, all the teams I played for, were it was about the standard. It was not about the result.
What a great lesson for our coaches. So Shane, take us inside those winning organizations. Now there's standards. How do you create, and I hear you talk about it. How do you were a star in high school and then you're a national player of the year in college. How did you come up with that glue guy mentality? Like where did that come from? How did that evolve? Because I know that was such an embodiment of your NBA career, but how did you man, that's my ticket. Like that's what it takes.
Well, I never realized it would be my ticket. I wanted to win, first of all. I mean, that
Sure.
was my hyper competitiveness. I just wanted to win. And, when I grew up in Birmingham, and, I was the only kid in my neighborhood that had a black dad and a white mom. We did not grow up with a lot of money. Uh, I remember jeans on my patches on my jeans and hand me down clothes. Even though we lived in Birmingham, did not have a lot to go around, and I was always a foot taller than everybody else. Okay, so I was always an outcast and misfit. I was not like my friends, and so I learned the most important lesson in kindergarten, first grade of my life, really, that when I'm at recess and I help my friends win in kickball and in basketball and in sandlot baseball and in football, I'm no longer the kid that's mixed tall rapport. I'm I'm one of the guys, I'm one of the team. And so like winning for me was about survival. It was about like social survival. It was win and be loved or lose and not be loved. And so I learned when I was in kindergarten, first grade, that I had to do whatever I could to help my friends win. And it didn't matter if I scored the most points. I had to do all the things that just won games, whether it was blocking for my friends or passing the ball to the open man. And um, that was just my mindset. What can I do to help my friends look good and help my friends win? And over the course of my young career, that just became my calling card. Now, basketball, it was interesting. I had a very low offensive ego. Offense did not come naturally to me. Defense always came naturally to me because I was a foot taller than everybody else, and I blocked every shot. I had good coordination, and defense was easy for me because when I played good defense and blocked a ton of shots and stole the ball and kept the other team from scoring, it was good for the team, right? And so, like, to me, if I scored a lot of points in offense and my friends weren't getting to shoot the ball, like that was hurting the team. So,
Right.
like, my defensive mentality, which carried me throughout my basketball career, came from, hey, we got to win. I got to help my friends win. And defense is the best way to do that. And so, uh, you know, I didn't really realize that I learned that lesson until much later in life. But by then, like, doing all the little things were my calling card. But that's where it originated from, the playground of Pembroke Elementary School, back in the day.
That's the coolest thing I've ever heard, Shane. That is so. I mean, how would we have known that, right? We when we hear the name Shane Battier, you know, we're so proud that anytime you win our Mr. Basketball, Miss Basketball, you're in our family. We keep track of you. We see how you're doing. And of course, we wanted you to stay in Michigan to play college, but we were right there with you the whole time. I mean, in 98 and 99, and then finally in 2001. I mean, we were all like, we want Shane to win because Shane's our guy. And then to hear that really it wasn't spoon fed to you. You had to go find your way. That's wonderful to hear that story. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, yeah, it's part of my career, and I'm very proud. It wasn't easy, but it was the most important lesson I learned in my life, really.
Coach Young was fired up after I shared your TED talk with him. He's like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to talk to Shane about it. Coach, do you have any questions for Shane about his TED Talk and that whole idea about elevating others?
As I listened to it, Shane, the Battier effect. I think it was from a Mike Lewis that wrote about you. Is that what you said in there? And then at the end of the day, what am I doing with my 98%? You talked about the 2% and 98%, the 98% outside the spotlight. How am I able to elevate others? And I immediately thought about us teachers and coaches. That's how we think. And you would be, in anything you do, you would be successful because it's your makeup and your drive and your intelligence and your experiences and your work ethic and la la la. But that resonated with me, like the glue guy. That's really coaching, leading a business, being a principal of a high school. Talk a little bit more about that. That was awesome to hear, and it was just so well spoken.
Well, thank you first of all. That was hard. That was the most difficult speech. I'm a professional speaker, so I do this for a living, and it was very difficult to distill my entire career in 10 minutes. And if it finally hit me that I had a friend that gave me a bunch of random stats after I retired a decade ago. And one of the stats he told me was I had 90% of my dunks in the NBA in my first 2 years. Right. And then I just stopped dunking. All right. So
Did you say, hey,
that's a
thanks?
Thank
that's a fun fact. But the other stat was when I played with the Miami Heat, all right, and I was a starter on two back-to-back world championship teams, and I played with the great LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, Ray Allen, Hall of Famers. When I was on the floor, I only touched the ball 2% of the time I was on the floor. And so imagine the tens of thousands of hours I've spent practicing mastering the basketball, dribbling, shooting, passing, right? Like all players do. But to get on the court and only use that skill 2% of the time, it takes some mental stability. So it begs the question, like, what was I doing in the other 98% of the time I never had the ball to justify my starting position? I always finished games, right? And I was an integral part of, you know, one of the great teams of the 2000s, and I was out there, and I it wasn't because of what I did with the basketball. And I think it's a metaphor for so many people in life. When the spotlight's on you, when the boss is reviewing you, when all eyes are on you, you summon the energy to kind of stand up straighter and make all your marks and sit up a little bit straighter because everybody's watching, right? But champions are made when no one is watching you, right? And so when the spotlight's off you and no one's paying attention, what do you do to contribute to winning? What's your standard? And for me on the basketball court, like, all the things that didn't involve the ball, like running back on defense, diving for loose balls, setting good screens, being a solid inbounds passer, uh, knowing the scouting report, always being in position. Like there are no KPIs for those. Like there's no review. Like no one's buying my jersey because they said, "Oh, Battier was in great defensive position tonight," right? But every great team does those things, right? But like no one talks about them. And those are the backbones of every championship. Every great team, every great player just does those things. And I took a lot of pride in them. And so the message was like, in this Instagram crazy world that we live in, everyone thinks they have to go and shout out, "Hey, look at me, look at me, look how great I am. I'm talented, I'm special." Well, first of all, we're all really busy and we're not looking for people who are special. We want people who can help us on our journey, right? And that only happens by doing the right things in the 98% when no one is watching and making that your habit. And I think that's a metaphor that I think most people can relate with.
The best. It's awesome.
Shane, how do
So
you
good.
think a coach fosters that in today's world? How do you foster glue guys and encourage it in your organization or your
Yeah.
team?
I think you have to do three things. All right. You have to spot it, you have to strengthen it, and you have to stretch it. Okay. Or scale it. Uh, you have to see great intangible behavior and call it out. Hey, the way you run back on defense is awesome. Hey, thank you for doing that. The way that you're positive and you always cheer for your teammates and you help them up after you fall down. Wow, that's awesome, right? And if you ever call that kind of behavior out, then no one knows that's great behavior and that's what we expect, right? And so, how does a coach do that? Well, you have to recognize that first in yourself. All right. The job of a coach, the job of a leader is to model the behavior that you want to see in your team, in your group. Okay. You have to walk the walk if you're going to talk the talk. All right. So, how do you grow that within yourself? How do you strengthen that? First, you got to see it. And now it's just a matter of being aware of like, okay, well, what am I doing to make this a part of who I am? If I expect my teams to move on to the next play and have resilience, how do I have resilience? Right. And it may be as simple as writing down a note every single day, one thing you did that improved resilience in my life. Okay. And after you do that for a week, you have a lot of examples of like, yeah, you know what, I am resilient. And so once you have that habit and have that confidence of like, okay, yes, I can be resilient. Now you got to scale it within your team. Now you say, hey guys, this is what resilience looks like, right? This is how I, you know, grew it in myself. And when all of us do this, guess what? We are a mentally tough team. We can overcome everything, and that's what championship stuff is made of. And so, it's a framework I try to share with coaches and leaders. Spot the great behavior, strengthen it in yourself first, and then scale it with your team. And when you scale it in your team, that's when amazing things happen, and your culture just gets raised by by exponential level.
Sign of a great communicator. You have an alliteration for it and you can remember it like that. I love it. I love it.
I'm not very smart, coach. I got to keep it simple.
That's beautiful. So, Shane, I don't want to date us here, but I remember when it was off season, you were playing for the Houston Rockets and you were in Birmingham, and I spotted you at a Borders bookstore. And so, and you were reading, and I asked you, I said, Shane, what are you reading? And you said, you should check out this book, Growth Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck. And I read it, and it was a life-changing book, and I got to tell you, Shane, you probably know it's a hallmark book in education today. You were just
Yep.
a little ahead of the curve on that one. How do you what are you drawn to in the content that you read and the books that you read? What interests you, and how do you I'm sure it helps along with the mentors you have develop all this great content that you're putting out.
Yeah. Well, I joked I'm not very smart, and that is a fear that um, the answer's out there. It's going to solve everything. And I know it's not, but my fear is like, what don't I know? And so I've always had intellectual honesty with myself, that I never just presupposed I had all the answers. And so I've always been voracious and very curious about what can I learn? Who can I learn from? I think that every coach I've ever played for, every teammate I've ever played with, every person that has helped me on my journey, I try to learn something from them and take their best attributes and help me in my journey, right? And so, my greatest strength has been always been my curiosity, and I'm just a voracious learner, and I'm never satisfied with what the answer is, and I always ask why. I'm an annoying kid that always said, "Hey, well, why? Well, then what? Well, then what?" Coaches used to drive. I used to drive coaches crazy because I used to drill them on every game plan. Okay, and I
You
would
never
come up
know
with
it.
contingencies. And so every coach knew they better come strong because I always had questions about, well, what happens if the pick and roll gets split? Well, then what? And so, you know, I don't know how I learned that. I'm just a very curious person, and it's served me well. And life is a journey of learning and gaining experiences, and using those experiences to foster happiness in your own life. And I really believe that. So whether it's a book, a podcast, a song, a poem, a person, I'm trying to learn, because the answer to everything is out there. I'm still looking for it.
Absolutely. That's a great lesson for our coaches. Shane, I love your podcast, Glue Guys, and the newsletter that you're putting out. You seem to have such rich stuff, and you understand the attention span of the reader too. It's like concise, it's like, because there's so much out there, it's like,
Yeah.
but you
Yeah.
really, we really we'll put that stuff out on our newsletter. We have over 5,000 coaches on our newsletter. They're going to benefit from that. But can you tell us a little bit about both the Glue Guys podcast, why you did it, and then also what you're doing now with the newsletter and the
Yeah.
content you're creating?
Look, I think I'm getting nostalgic in my old age, and uh, a couple of friends of mine, Ravi Gupta is a senior venture capitalist in Silicon Valley, and Alex Smith, who's the former number one pick for the San Francisco 49ers. We're all friends, and we've had some like really cool conversations just about parenting and success. And my other co-hosts are wildly successful in life, and uh, we decided one day, let's just tape these and put it out and see if we can help some people. And we have, and we've gained a small following with our stories and our off-brand of humor, but it's all in the name of just helping people. Look, we're all trying to do the best we can out there, right? And like I said before, if we can help some people, figure out a puzzle in their life or overcome some adversity. That's why we're here, and I've been blessed to have amazing teachers in my life. So it's my turn to pay that forward. And so I'm writing 2 books concurrently, and just trying to. I've seen so much. I've been so blessed on my journey, and I've learned, again, like I said, from the amazing coaches. And I didn't invent anything new. I just took from them and kind of repackaged it in my life. And so I've enjoyed the outlet of writing. I don't have the attention span to sit and write very long either. So I like to keep it short. And so I think people appreciate that. But
Yeah. Yeah.
again, there's so much you can learn from quick stories and quick anecdotes and quick frameworks that when you apply to your life, you say, oh yeah, that's useful. That's useful. And so it's been fun to get the feedback and know that I'm resonating with some folks out there.
Well,
Can't wait to read those, Shane. Wait to read those. That's going to be awesome.
so where can we find the newsletter? Like, what could a coach do we'll post it, but like, where is it, your website that we could do it?
Right now I'm on Substack. If
Okay.
you just go and search Shane Battier and Substack, and I'm in the process of posting that on my blog shanebattier.com. But you can find me on LinkedIn as well. I post some snippets, and I'm in the Twitter sphere verse. So I'm out there. But if you just go to Substack. That's where my main writing lives, and obviously Glue Guys you can find on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. So I'm out there just trying to pump out some content and entertain a few folks and have a few yucks.
So I know Coach Young will want to say a few things, but I want to ask you this question as we kind of wrap this up and bring it to a close. We ask all our guests this because this is a podcast for coaches, for leaders. And so, Shane, if you were to give a young, aspiring coach who wants to have a long, distinguished career in coaching advice, what would that be?
Every great coach and every great leader, and Coach Keener, Country Day, Coach Orlando, 2 Hall of Famers, they did this as well as Coach K. Um, they do a few things very similarly. Like I said before, they model the behavior they expect out of their teams, right? And if you want enthusiasm, you better model enthusiasm. If you want communication, you better model communication, right? Don't ask for one thing and act a different way, because players are smart. They're always watching, right? So model the behavior that you want out of your team. All right. Secondly, you have to be able to paint a future for all of your players that they can't see. Right? Every player wants to be good. Every player wants to play. They want to contribute. They want to feel that they're valued. Okay. A lot of players can't see that for themselves. All right. The great coaches I had, they painted a picture. If you work and if you believe and if you buy in, this is what can happen for your career. And I'm not saying you're going to go to the NBA, but you will maximize your ride in athletics. And um, we all want someone to believe that a future for us is better than the one we have today, right? And so a great coach can articulate that and can make a player believe, all right, given work and discipline and all the stuff that goes into it. Like those two things are just, I think, really, really important for, especially for young coaches. It's not about strategy, guys and gals. Yes, you can learn to draw a play up. That's very, very little what makes an excellent coach, the strategy. It's about getting a group of people to buy in, to believe, and to work towards a common goal every single day, especially when it's not fun to work, right? That's what makes a good coach. And so I was lucky to have that with Coach K, Coach Keener, Coach Orlando, Coach Battier, Eric Spoelstra, Jeff Van Gundy, Mike Fratelli, QB Brown. I mean, an embarrassment of coaches, and that was the common thread that all those did to make me the player that I was.
That's awesome. Coach Young, how about having Shane Battier on our podcast? I know as executive director, he's really the embodiment of what we want our student athletes to eventually achieve, to do great things in school, to go to great schools, and then to come back and invest in communities and the charities that he's involved in and the richness that he's providing now. I mean, do you have any thoughts that you want to share as we close?
Like I said, you're from us. You're from Michigan. You're one of our Mr. Basketball recipients. We're proud of you. I'm proud of you. And just what you're doing right now with your life and how you played. And it's just what you would want your son to play like and your daughter to play like. And so can't be more proud of you. And I just was very fun to be on tonight and just getting to know you a little bit in a different way. I just learned a
Appreciate
lot
that,
of new
Coach.
things. You're impressive.
Like I said, I'm very proud to be from Michigan, be from Detroit, be from Birmingham, and the assembly line mentality of hey, we got to do this together.
Love it.
I don't know if I'd have been the player I would have been without that lesson. And so we're lucky in the state of Michigan that we have that example all around us and in every street corner of our great state. And it's not like that everywhere. If you never leave Michigan, it is not like that everywhere. And so value that, treasure that, and use that to your advantage because it is a differentiator.
Thank you,
Well
Shane.
said. Shane, thank you for joining the BCAM podcast. Coach Young, how about Shane Battier today? I mean,
right.
It was captured in the episode, but really the epitome of what we hope student athletes do. They go on to have wild success and then come back and invest in causes that matter and use those talents to the best of his ability. I mean, just a wonderful testament of just an incredible human being. And it was just a pleasure to have a conversation with him and for him to share his insights and his unbelievable experiences with our coaches and with our podcast community was just something special.
I think your son, Jake Masucci, said it best. He said, think about the Jalen Williams for Oklahoma City and the Pascal Siakam, Shane Battier, winning programs, how they elevate others, how they change outcomes, how they change the lives within their team, and then how do you create a legacy of who you are. To me, that was Shane Battier, and that's coaching. That's being on a great, when you have that special team. We've coached for a long time in our careers, and you think back to those special teams. They had people like Shane Battier on them that were selfless, that did the little things, that loved each other, that also had talent. And that was a special interview, Mike, and you did such a great job of asking questions. And it was just super powerful listening to elementary school and wanting to help win the kickball game so he could fit in. I mean, think about that. Awesome stuff. And Boy, we're lucky to have had him on.
Yeah. And for our coaches, there's so many highlights to go back and review. The one that resonated with me is how do you foster glue guys? Because you're all not going to have a Shane Battier. You're not going to have a Mr. Bass. You might, but you might not have an All-American. I hope you do, but he's a special player. But you all will have glue guys. And for him to give that recipe, you got to spot it. You got to strengthen it. And then you got to scale it, and I think that's such a good teaching point for our coaches. So we want to just conclude by thanking our listening community, our coaches. We hope you're enjoying your off season here and enjoying family time and relaxing and thinking about how great your upcoming season's going to be. Thank you for all the positive emails, the support. Go ahead and give us a 5-star rating. That helps us with our sponsors. Thank you all, and we look forward to our next podcast.